wanted fertilizer in Abakaliki area for rice, may get fertilizer for yam. So, but with that kind of program, we got into the field with everything. So whoever wants improved seed, you get it. Improved okwa, this thing, you get it. Palm for palm, you get it. That was ongoing. And the policy then is to replace all the old palm trees with improved palm trees with greater yield. This was succeeding. It was catching up. I would discuss agriculture in TV, as, radio, everywhere. And yes, and suddenly the cabinet was dissolved. And so I went back to school to teach that in Nsukka. I was reappointed head of political science and the coordinator of local government training program. That was the position I was holding 89 when, again over the national news, I was appointed chairman, National Electoral Commission, 89, February 28.
You know your mentor, Emawa,
yes,
was occupying that position and had just resigned, had just left the office over a disagreement with the president at that time. Did that not worry you when you were taking up your position?
I wasn't pretty sure that he resigned, or I was surprised when the commission was dissolved. Okay. The commission, the entire commission was dissolved and restructured. And least did I expect that I would replace my teacher, that's a professor. Again, I wasn't consulted. No one gave me a hint. I wasn't, because with the stint I had as commissioner for local government, commissioner for agriculture, I thought that was enough. But suddenly, with the ASCON appointment about local government reform and all the application of civil service rule to local government service, I settled back to my teaching appointment, and which I really enjoyed. So suddenly, February 28, 1989, I heard that I have been appointed to replace my former teacher, and we really related very well. Mm-hmm. And various teacher, people, and later colleague at the same university, we had excellent relationship. So when I was appointed, I was living here, the little bungalow, and covering my teaching duties from here to Nsukka. I was just returning to hear this over the radio. And I could remember the first media representative to just follow and begin to ask questions was Guardian representative, who asked, why are you replacing your teacher? What do you think you can do better than our? I said, just if what I heard over the radio is true, well, and if it indeed is true, well, we owe a duty to serve this country, to give this country the best service possible as a nation, that if it is the wish of God for me to do this, and the nation, through the president, had confidence that I would do everything in me to make sure that elections were well conducted. And to buttress this point, because election duties in this country is a very challenging at any point in time, no matter the circumstances and the timing and where the political situation that you find yourself all contribute to making you how you would do that job. So before we were inaugurated, we were called to say that, well, you are a political scientist, because I didn't know the reason why I was appointed. I wanted to know what motivated, because I felt that my teacher was experienced. He must have been doing excellent work, but it's on the quiet side. He said, well, we've restructured this commission that was coming through the vice president, Ikomo. Don't give us any opportunity to do this again. We want you to run a vibrant electoral commission, a credible commission. We want you to institutionalize it to be a credible commission with life of its own. And you, as a political scientist, you would have been aware what happened during our First Republic, how people had lost confidence in the electoral process, in the ballot box. The truth of the matter then, as I was being reminded by the then Vice President Ikomo, that people had lost confidence in the electoral box, in the ballot box system. You should restore that confidence. Use your ingenuity, use your experience, use whatever. You are a Nigerian. Make something indigenous that can help us, help this nation have confidence in the ballot box. So that was, perhaps they might have thought that I could do it, having had practical experience in local government administration, in local government reform. They might have thought perhaps my experience as commissioner for local government, dealing with different kinds of people, traditional rulers, town unions, might have qualified me to deal with the complex situation. Sometimes you have to deal with politicians, different orientation, and people who want to win at all costs. So they felt that you have credibility to do this. So perhaps they wanted also somebody who should relate with the press, explain what you are doing at any time so that you carry the people. Explain to government, explain to Nigerian public, explain to press, and we try to do all that.
What were the first steps you took when you got to NECON?
Yes, that's very important. Restoration of confidence and creating a commission that we have self-confidence in itself. I asked for a number of people to enable me to do this difficult task. First, I got Tony Rede, who later on became the MD NTA, as my image maker. And that I told him we would go all out to newspapers, editorial boards, to explain whatever program, whatever reform we introduce. Like when we introduced the open ballot, you know what, people say it was primitive and all that, that we had a duty to, because there was no need to have a program and people don't understand it, the aim behind it, and why you are doing it. Like when we introduced open ballot, we wanted people to key behind those they wanted to vote for, because we want people to eyemark that whoever they voted for is who will be the person announced to be the winner. This was a way of restoring confidence in the electoral process, you know. And it got on. So first, the loyalty of the staff. To build a commission, I assembled a team and make sure that they were well taken care of. Like when we moved to Abuja, Abuja is not friendly in terms of junior staff, accommodation, and all that. Before ever we left Lagos to Abuja, I made sure that in Kubwa, I bought over 300 two-bedroom bungalows for my junior staff. I'm sure they will never forget because they own them today, So for somebody, if you are expecting somebody to be fully committed, fully loyal to whatever he's doing, he must be sure when he sleeps at the end of the day. Not only that I got this, I furnished it, I bought buses, and people still remember me for this. Not only that, NASCO was the then FCT minister. There were a number of abandoned FEDECO, FEDECO building, which I completed, a number of abandoned flats, blocks of flats, uncompleted. There were about 14, each 16 three-bedroom flats. I completed them for the intermediate staff, senior staff, And I understand since Obasanjo's privatization or monetization of accommodation, each of staff who live in this three-bedroom flat, that each of them is worth 25 or 30 million, and they own them. So loyalty to the commission.
Through incentives.
Yeah, as incentive. I also made National Electoral Commission to be a pensionable organization. Before then, ad hoc staff were recruited, were selected from state, federal, and this was how it was done in all the elections, even during ESWA and Ovia Whiskey. They brought temporary staff. After election, they go back to their respective states or federal ministries. I said, no, if you have to have electoral management body that will be efficient, that should be committed to its duty, you should have a pensionable body with its own staff, its own welfare scheme, and they know they are working. When the politicians like national commissioners and resident electoral commissioners are terminated, the core staff that conduct election will be there so that they carry research, they assemble data and all that. We did that. We also convinced, because it wasn't easy to make organization that was ad hoc organization, pensionable organization. That's, again, what the then head of state, the president, I explained to him the need for this. This was achieved through decree. Yeah. And that's still, many people who worked for the ENUGU today, they retire with their benefits. How do you work for an organization when you don't know at the end of it all what will happen to you? So at least after conduct of each election, if political appointees are sacked, the permanent staff will be there. So that was the immediate. Not only that, I also acquired land in Abuja. The NEC building, the headquarters, the present headquarters was built by me with only 54 million, six-story building. Not funded, is money I saved from election. I asked permission from government. Could I use this to have, because they were talking of computerization, I said it will stay futuristic. What we need is a permanent headquarters. So that headquarters was done. As I was doing for the headquarters, I was also doing this at state and local government level, creating sense of belonging, sense of mission to staff at national headquarters, state headquarters, and local government headquarters.
Let's talk about the hallmarks of your tenure. Yeah. Open ballot, option A4.
Yes.
How did you and your colleagues come to this conclusion that this was what was going to give the country a credible election?
You know, I did tell you that when we were inaugurated, March 7, 1990, we were reminded, do the best for this nation. In fact, we were even promised national honors if what you do is generally accepted by Nigerians, because in elections that are not accepted by generality of Nigerians are not credible. Generality of Nigerians must accept the outcome, because this is my internal philosophy, that as boss of an electoral management body, first you must have that the first major constituency in your heart, mind, and soul is generality of Nigerians. Would they accept the outcome of the election? If generality of Nigerians say that it's not credible, then it's not credible. So the focus. Two, the staff you work with, you must carry them along. It's not one-man affair, because you cannot be all over the place. There is always logistic preparation. And if you fail in logistics, you have failed. And part of the problem of elections in this country is logistic failure. Either the voter register is not credible, or you have 2 or 3 competing voter registers at the same time. That's wrong. 3, if sensitive electoral materials are not moved to places that are needed at the same time all over the country, these are some of the logistics that things later on I will explain we did to make sure that in those difficult terrains all over Nigeria, that sensitive electoral materials were taken to them by 8 or 9 without storytelling. So being a political scientist and being a Nigerian and knowing what happened with 1964 federal government election, the revolt all over the place, knowing what happened with October 1965 regional election in the West within Akintola, and burning of houses, and knowing again in 1983, the second return of Shagari, that after the election and inauguration, there was violence all over. It gave me a lot of thoughts, a lot of things. I called my national commissioners. We should now think, first and foremost, how do we carry Nigerians? How do we ensure, starting with local government election, that what we would do would be accepted by the people? And this is this internal research. Leave the Western mode, secret, but it is ideal where everything is perfect, where people already know that they will not engage in double voting, they will not pour acid in anything, they will just enter a polling station, do their civic duty. Yeah, it is so in all democracies, but it's not so in third world, where people want to win at all cost. So knowing that the confidence of Nigerians had been shattered with all those elections I mentioned, we needed something Nigerian, something not exactly Western.
Indigenous.
Indigenous.
Homegrown.
Something that we make people, yeah, you people are trying. You can improve on this. This is something. And so we came out with this open ballot. We experimented, especially with local government election December 8, 1990. The first people should key along the candidates, because it's not national election now. We experiment with it, and people should watch the counting. the slang then, no mago mago,
Yeah.
no
One, two.
1, 2, and the electorate enjoy the counting. And we say, wait and know the result.
Before you go home.
Before you go home. So we did it, and it worked. I mean, for local government, and all the people who came out, who participated, were satisfied that the efforts were not in vain.
Tell me, when the first time you went to the president
Yes.
or the head of state then
Yes.
and said, we want to do open ballot,
Yes.
how did he react?
Initially, they were afraid. They said, do you think, would this not lead to confusion? I said, no. We'll start with local government and improve on it. He said, okay, but I said, that's why you appointed me. You said, look at something that will work. And this is what I'm coming up with. And this is where I commended, because he had confidence. Because if it had failed, it would be his own program failing, So we tried it, and it worked. And people in subsequent election, people what we call accreditation. Mm-hmm. That means before anything is done at all the people who were supposed to vote in a particular election would all be expected to be accredited, usually between 8 and 10 in the morning. And if you don't, that's where the elites criticize it. They say, why do you expect me to leave my office and come and wait for 2 hours? But for something that will be credible, acceptable, something that you will not manipulate, it was necessary to make that sacrifice, especially with local government elections. So people appeared, accreditation done, so that, and the requirement, it would be in this particular polling station, the number of voters in the register is 400. But the number of people accredited, there's no way you have the same 400, maybe 300 or 250. Everyone knows that. And you now say 250 will be participating in this election. And then they queue up, either with the person or the posters of the person. Thereafter, the counting is done, and the result, the council, especially the one, people held it, they enjoyed it, it was popular all over Nigeria. But for the elites, people criticize. We were a learning organization. Any organization must be a learning organization to know if there are faults, things you can amend, and so on. So,
to sharpen them.
Yeah, sharpen, yeah. So, having done that, that's pure open ballot system. Then MOPS, modified open balloting system, means you still have the accreditation. And I think the president and almost all the people that had taken the commission, managed the commission since I left office, Oya, Dagogo Jack, Tayo Akpata, Gobadia, Iwo, to President Jaga, they are still using accreditation as I introduced it. They will accredit. Secondly, after accreditation, in modified open balloting system, you announce this is the number of people. But whether they do it now, I don't know. Especially when they quarrel with the voters register. In recent Anambra, I don't know. But there should be a credible voters register.
For all of this to work.
All of this to work. It is important. The first major step in having credible election, I should remind all Nigerians, for 2015, is that the register must be credible, especially when the National Assembly is pouring a lot of money. I used 42 million naira to conduct voters register of May 1993 before June 12th election, because government told me we don't have money. But the law requires before a major election, you have to have a revised voters register. I did it, and it was credible. In any case, after the accreditation and announcement, the number of people accredited, you have ballot paper. And I tried much later, even in improvement, the ballot paper of each local government may differ in color so that you shift ballot paper meant for one local government to another. In any case, you issue ballot paper, you go into closet and vote, secret vote, mark, but you come out in the open, in the same box, so that there are not two separate boxes. If you put two separate boxes, one may be fake, knowing Nigerians, one may be destroyed. But if you put all the votes, and during counting, voters are encouraged not to go away. I don't know what happened now, whether they are encouraged to stay there. They count, and everyone will know the result, that A or B or C has won in that particular polling district before the collation process, and copies are given to the press, given to the polling agent, to security for onward collation at each level. And this is how I think they still adopt elements of this.
When television was invented, it was not only to entertain, but to tell stories of heroes on the pains of the weak, to reveal the big secrets and report the little things that matter, to unveil the complex issues and bring reports of events and personalities that shape our lives. Open your mind to true television with Frontline. Hot, incisive, in-depth, straight to the point. Frontline, wherever the news is.
In fuel pump price, which is very high, is affecting the spending habits of citizens. It's making it very hard. If fuel subsidy is to be reintroduced, I think it will make spending habits of consumers to be less, and the unit price of commodities will reduce, because the transportation costs will reduce, which will make life easy for us to live.
It's really an issue that has been lingering for a very long time now. I remember coming down here to this venue today and I saw the queue in the NNPC filling station, and I feel that this is part of the reason why we're having the hike in prices of things, and something can be done. The NNPC can do something about this to make sure that fuel is readily available to every part of Nigeria.
Like now, I'm doing business and I want to purchase something. I can't buy it normal price. The price will go higher, and at the end of the day, I cannot even get what to eat. I cannot see money to buy what I will eat with my baby. So it's really very hard for us to survive.
The issue is quite alarming and so disheartening, because most of us have a lot of things to do. Like where you used to go to 200 is now 500. Where you used to, somebody that is an average worker, or maybe a sales girl that is being paid 30K. Imagine your transport fare every day. You might just, half of your money will be gone for just transportation. It doesn't only affect our transportation, it also affects our daily living. The thing used to, even biscuit, that one hurts me. I'm seriously saying it. Biscuit I used to buy 60 naira is now 120. And 150 on is now 300. Imagine students like us, how we are going to be surviving and how we are going to be managing ourselves. Some of us in school, they are the one catching for ourselves. So when you combine these two school activities and daily living, it's quite alarming.
To be honest, me, in school, I trek from the hostel to the gate because the transport fare was 70 naira, but now it is 150. So the increment is is so overwhelming that I prefer trekking. Like I rather trek than to spend 150 naira. It's a lot on transport, and the distance is actually so short compared to what it was before. So aside transportation, it has also affected the cost of feeding. Yes, because if you want to if you want to buy pepper now, pepper that was let me say 15 naira, it's just for 200 naira. Now I don't know what it is now. So both feeding, accommodation, because your agent will also add transportation to go check the building, and all this, like it's numerous. It's even the school fees has increased. Our school fees has increased.
You're welcome to Signature Morning on Signature Television. Today is Friday, the 11th day in the month of October. So happy weekend, and that's how we say it every Friday. Happy weekend to you. By the way, today is International Day of the Girl Child. Yeah, we're celebrating the girl child today. So kudos to all the children out there and all the girl child out there. My name is Belinda Nwobodo. Usually, I'm here with Charles Pius.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's going to be a beautiful day. I was quite shocked when the news of the 16-year-old taking over as the Speaker of the Nigeria's House of Assembly, where she presided over certain bills. And it was quite profound. That was the very first time we're seeing that happen in commemoration of the girl child. I don't know whether, that in itself brings to fore some of the issues that the girl child is facing in Nigeria. It's one thing to commemorate it with the way and manner that they did, by the speaker stepping down and she just presiding over, for somebody who is not, a member of the assembly. But I think we should go beyond of living exacerbated by the increase in pop price of fuel. Welcome everybody. We're up with the headlines on our dailies this morning. Stay with us after this.
Yes.
Welcome back. Thank God it's Friday, and it is October 11th, 2024. It's time for the headlines on our dailies this morning. On the Nigerian Tribune, just below the masts, the TUC calls for a special forex rate for Dangote refinery, with the rider wants federal government to return petrol price to what it was in June 2023. Ipman links petrol price hikes to deregulation. NNPCL lacks power to fix prices of fuel, says Falana. Atiku hits Tinubu over hardship.
Corruption, other vices becoming bane of judiciary. Clark tells CJN with the rider wants various reports on judicial reforms revisited. That's on the page 22.
Gunmen in Anambra kidnap journalists traveling to cover Super Eagles match in Uyo. That's on page 25.
RIPE's call for suspension of new tax initiatives affecting low-income Nigerians on the page 12.
Appeal court dismisses Fubara's appeal, voids 800 billion naira budgets passed by Edison Ehie Group. With the rider, Rivers government heads to Supreme Court.
PDP BOT demands a NEC meeting to address internal conflicts, with the rider condemns brazen wriggling of Edo-Guba pool.
Army arrests soldier over policeman's death in Lagos.
I think that's all we can take from the Nigerian Tribune this morning. All right, we're moving ahead to the next newspaper, the Guardian newspapers this morning. We have war against corruption, where anti-graft ego turns a blind eye to sacred cows. Okay.
My husband, not greedy, working for better Nigeria. I'm wondering why she has to say that.
Atiku, CUPP, TUC, others knock Tinubu over handling of fuel subsidy.
Shatima, Kalu Abiodun decry rising population of uneducated kids, urge action.
Don't dare military defense headquarters warns Asari Dokubu.
Reps kick against multiple tax burdens on Nigerians.
And moving ahead to the Vanguard this morning. Vanguard newspapers will have NIN SIM linkage of all phones numbers completed. That's from NCC.
Deny allocations to local governments where selections were done. Senate tells federal government.
My husband, no cause of current hardship. Remi Tinubu.
Petrol price hike. Nasima, PDP, Atiku, CSOs, others insist on reversal.
Kidnap, police rescue 6 sports journalists.
All right. Rivers Assembly crisis. Appeal court affirms Amewole as speaker.
Safe judiciary reform collapse needs total overhauling. Clark writes CGN.
All right. Still on the vanguards. Death penalty. 3,650 inmates on death row nationwide, says ASF.
And sport AFCON 2025. Don't undermine Libya. ENUGU wants Super Eagles.
NIN SIM linkage of all phones numbers completed, says NCC.
Moving ahead to the Nation newspapers. At 90, I am prepared for my death, says Soyinka.
Courts. Fubara must take budget 2024 to a Mewole-led house with the rider. Court of Appeal dismisses governor's case. Rivers heads for Supreme Court.
125 CNG conversion centers activated across states.
Well, it's an interesting headline, 125 CNG conversion centers activated across states, but I just saw a picture of a vehicle that got exploded because it had the CNG kits. You know, normally you are supposed to have like 1 or 2 CNG drone, you know, just around the back of your vehicle. So when we see that kinds of pictures and videos, I mean, you become really scared. You don't want a situation where you're driving on top speed, and then you get that your vehicles explodes just because you want your vehicle converted to CNG. Lagos Red Line begins commercial operations on Tuesday.
Every child out of school is danger to society, says Shetima.
Makinde, Tunjojo, O'Kane, Ayedatiwa campaign council.
65 illegal refineries destroyed in 1 week, and also bank customers lament disruptions.
All right, we're moving over to the next newspaper, the Punch newspaper. Eatman tackles NNPCL, threatens to stop operations. With the rider, marketers accuse NNPCL of inflating Dangote petrol price. Merman continues loading subsidized PMS.
Fubara heads to Supreme Court as appeal court affirms pro-Wike lawmakers.
7 banks pay 329 billion naira tax, says the report.
Sanwo-Olu inspect ongoing 7-story New Mercy Children Hospital.
Oyedepo's 2 deputies step down next week.
Data voice services fetch MTN Airtel 3.6 trillion naira.
Wow. Lebanese jailed 14 years for sexually exploiting 2 teenage girls.
Why military hasn't gone after Asari Dokubo? That's from DHQ.
Sanwo-Olu inspects ongoing 7-story New Mercy Children Hospital.
That's all from The Punch. And lastly, the Daily Trust newspapers. Plateau Lekki government poll turns violent as protesters burn motorcycles. Borno confirms escape of 6 repentant insurgents.
Bandits appoints deposed village heads in my communities, says Sokoto local government chair.
Ipman tackles NNPCL over new petrol price, with rider says all firm bought product for 899 naira but sells at over 1,000 naira per litre. It will come down, trading arm of National Oil Company. Streets deserted as workers, students trek. Atiku knocks Tinubu, a major cause for protest. TUC seeks reversal of hike.
Out of school children threats to national security, says Vice President Shatiba.
Soldier stabs police inspector to death in Lagos.
All the details you can find on the Daily Trust, and that's it on the front pages of our dailies this morning. We're back to the studio with our guest as usual. Thank God it's Friday. Good morning, Chris Maduka.
Good morning, Charles. Good morning, Belinda. Thank God it's Friday. That's another day. It's wonderful. And you started with that today is International Day of Girl Child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wonderful. Girl children like Belinda should be celebrated. So we celebrate you, Belinda, and your likes. But I just want, before we go into headlines, because it's part of the issue, the challenge of girl child in a developing nation like Nigeria, where we lost morals, whether it's a hardship that have driven Nigeria and their humanity to the dustbin. If you are a parent in Nigeria and you have a girl child in your house, beyond the problem you are fighting to keep the child alive and get her education, you know, if the society provide equal opportunity and platform to go, the girl child is living a life of risk. Everything about girl child in Nigeria is merchandising. Beyond some of them that have gone into prostitution because of their problems. Do you imagine it's in Nigeria? I've had for the first time in my life that used pads, panties, underwears of women used for rituals. Every day you see gory pictures of women dismembered, the private parts and other parts cut off. So you hear every day, kidnap, rape, 70-year-old rape to 2-3 months girl. These are things you hear and you begin to believe that the end of time is very near. Whether you want to believe it or not, certain things will draw you and say, maybe this is true. It's happening in our time. Everything that happened in the Bible that made God to punish Sodom and Gomorrah has happened 500 times in Nigeria. So Nigeria should watch out. If whatever they're going through, I told them, is God's punishment. Then the people who are good at ceremonies, allowing a girl child to preside over the rice speeches and rehearse her what to do. This is another way I said, these are people in Nigeria, why would they stop telling themselves lies? I remember the days where they were pushing for 35% alone for women. We have not arrived at 20, we have not gotten to 15%. And those 15% are people who are ready to do anything for the men to push them where they are. All check. How many places in Nigeria do we have women as deputy governors? Not even talking about how many where. And the funny thing is that these are people who have taken over civil service. Women. They have 95% of them in civil service now. So the men are extinct, are going extinct in civil service. But they're only good at certain point. Still the greedy men, Nigerian politicians will not allow them opportunities to get to a point where they take a decision. Now, let's say compare. If for 64 years we have men taking the juicy positions and taking decisions that has not led us anywhere, he said, let's try. Give the women chance. So all those ceremonies of a girl child system presiding over is total babadash as I'm concerned, because it did not cross any part of their heart. They just do it for ceremony. In fact, the man will be wondering when they do this in service, so make this small girl no go take her serious. How many young women are in the national assemblies where decisions are made? So where you have, for instance, 190-something senators, and you have about 2 women, 3, 4, 5 highest, maybe 10. How will their voice count? You go to state houses of assembly, the same, everywhere. So the women are good at nursery school teaching, secondary school, and some university teaching, just teaching. When they finish teaching, then they go and start disposing things and put the women at the side. That's about International Day of Women. And if that's the only thing we achieve today, we move on.
Okay, I have this one from Remi Tinubu saying, my husband is not cause of current hardship and he's not greedy.
We are not expecting Senator Remi Tinubu to say otherwise. Put yourself in the position, Belinda. If your husband is the president of Nigeria, what will you say?
But I'm just wondering, why would he come out at this moment? Is there something underlining some accusations that we Nigerians
The
don't know
Nigerians
about?
are talking, and no matter how they pretend they're not hearing, they know I talk from here. Other people talk from different other platforms. That Nigeria is in trouble with over 1,000 naira fuel price, hardship and hunger is everywhere, and we have a president who incidentally is somebody's husband and somebody's father. And we, by the last record, are showing that the husband, the wife, and the children are not going through what we are going through. With the presidential yacht that the first lady can have access to at any time, with the presidential jet, when they went to the UN, the president's first lady was there with a retinue of assistants and co-first ladies of the state, the one in their favorite book. And they went there. You'll be wondering why we have to carry such. And we go to the world, they say Nigeria is suffering. Nobody in the world has taken Nigeria serious because our body language has not shown. So we do not want to join issues with a first lady. Your husband is doing very well, Senator Remi Tinubu, Her Excellency. And it's your war against 210 million Nigerians as at last estimate. So
I'm just
that's my review.
I'm just wondering why she would have to say it the way she said it. Why say that kind of thing? Your husband is not good. It's not something that you just say out of the script. You don't write a script and say, my husband is not greedy.
Something must have
something must have propelled her to say that.
We have never accused nobody from my records, I'm using myself as an example. I've not had anywhere in Nigeria they say President Bola Tinubu is greedy. He came well prepared, rich. So if we add greediness to whatever we are accusing him of, then he will be overburdened. Right. What we are saying is that he has not taken decisions that affect our lives as Nigerians. Simple. Greediness is as a wife at home. If you are greedy, your wife will know. So are you going to say that the wife said, my husband is not greedy? But then, if they, by perchance, have surrounded themselves with greedy people, then the first lady need to look back, go to the other room with the wife or her husband, and then talk about those. There's been rumored for more than up 10 times of reshuffle in the cabinet. The next thing we heard is that the president has gone on 2 weeks leave, whether it's a work stay or it's full-time leave. And he went on we don't know who is acting on his behalf. Is it the first lady or Alhaji Shetima? I don't know who is acting.
We have to take this particular breaking news. It's an update on what's going on in the People's Democratic Party. It does look like things have climaxed as the National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has suspended the party's acting national chairman, Ambassador Umar Damagum, and the National Secretary, Samuel Anyang, National Publicity Secretary of the party, Debo Ologunagba, confirms the development in the statements he issued in the early hours of today. Ologunagba said in the statements, the National Working Committee, NWC, of the PDP has extensively considered a series of complaints raised against the acting national chairman, Ambassador Ilia Damagum, and National Secretary, Senator Samuel Anyang, particularly with regards to the letter addressed by them to the Court of Appeal in appeal against the party's position in the case involving the 27 former members of the Rivers State House of Assembly who vacated their seats upon decamping from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress, APC. This is still a developing story. The acting national chairman and the national secretary of the People's Democratic Party has been suspended. Apparently, this was done by the National Working Committee because of what's going on in the People's Democratic Party. So it's beginning to get clearer by the day what really the sins of Damagom were, because you cannot be a PDP chairman and then write that kind of letter that is against, you know, the sitting governor of River State, with the 27 members who defected from the PDP to the All Progressive Congress.
The issue of PDP I've described so often is the case of a man who they want to roast on fire, and is taking baths morning, afternoon, and night with cooking gas. And the fuel, because fuel, all those things are expensive, but he decides to sacrifice that and take bath with them. So it's easy to roast them. The National Working Committee, the Damagong, whatever they are doing, there is a crack already in PDP, and we ask PDP, now this leg, Nama go take reach Omaya. They are just paving way. Also going back to tell Nigerians the hope of, maybe we'll have another party who might build up and come together to see whether they will challenge the sitting party to sit up or challenge them whenever there's election to come on. These chances are getting slimmer every day, because the only party that could have the little nearest chance of doing that is on fire. No wonder they have fire makers within them. So they keep making fire, setting fire on their houses, and they think that their enemies will come and send the fire service to quench it.
I'm just seeing the hand of Wike in it, because Damagom wouldn't just on his own write this type of letter to the appeal court, and I'm sure that's the reason why appeal court may have...
whatever is making Damagom and all these associates do what they do, it becomes the case of Adam. When God comes and calls, Adam, where are you? Or when they come and call, Charles, where are you? He said, Belinda. It won't stop God from doing what he wants to do with it. The punishment of not doing what you're supposed to do is very clear and all. So they better now. My own greatest regret is not the intra-party politicking and crisis. The thing is that they are not giving anybody any hope to believe that they can stand election anywhere. They've just lost Edo. And the people who took Edo are bracing up to take other states. With these internal squabbles, I bet you, I'm not a prophet of doom, I bet you that PDP might stand chance of losing so many other states.
Right.
So now, what is even bringing to the fore their internal squabbles is the almighty River State, which is the bride of all political parties. And they are toying with it and fighting and doing all that kind of thing. And they are toying with their most sensitive states. They could not stand to talk about, for whatever reason, they are going to all crumble like pack of cards. And that's where it's going to.
Right. To some other stuff, because we're almost out of time. We have just 5 minutes.
Anti-graft ego turns blind eyes. And he has a graphic illustration and the guidance where the ego itself carry empty basket trying to catch whatever all those whatever he's trying to catch is empty. My people in Igbo land talk say they know they carry squirrel for bag when you are going to plant maize. It's like the anti-graft people have their bags filled with squirrels. And they go there to start planting maize. What is it? They are just a fighting no result. No result. It's only people who do not have anybody who will talk for them. They used to fill up the records that they are working. If they stay, they prosecuted 200 cases. Let EFCC, ICPC stand before Nigerians and tell us the status of those cases and who are involved. It's just when people who really matter are involved, they do muchi. Is in Nigeria, I heard when it gets too difficult, you hear a player begging. when somebody should go to jail for an offense. Some people will go and start tweaking and just to give those people leeway to go. And I tell you what happens. This system has allowed Nigerians to make so much money uncontrolled. If any Nigerian has 500 billion naira in his account, and you are made the head of EFCC, you go to arrest him. You have given such person power to buy Nigeria. In some decent society, certain money in your account are so much tax that you'll be so much not motivated to make money again. It happens in USA. That's why you Ford Foundation, and all the charities coming to Africa. Because any money they put on top and it's not registered under charity will be taxed. But here, single Nigerians will put 500 million in different accounts controlling Nigeria. Me and him will be going to the same market. Then tomorrow, you become Chief Justice of any nation. You ask that person to go and prosecute that man. You offer you 1 billion, 100 billion naira. You come back home as Chief Justice and tell your children, I went to court today and I had this big Nigerian, profile Nigerian, and he's guilty of the offense, but he offered me 100 million and I said, no, your children will kill you. So they offer bribe. You allow Nigerians to get to the point they offer bribes, nobody can resist. And that is weakening the system. Nothing controls nobody. These big men, some of them, the kind of money they have in Nigerian banks, they make one withdrawal, all these banks will collapse. And these are the same people you want EFCC, ICPC to go. You appoint one civil servant to go and sit here and go and arrest. Let us be serious for once.
All right. We have to leave it there.
Well, let's leave it there because there's my papers are filled with what issues that we're going to review, but we have to go because we have multifarious issues in Nigeria to discuss. But let's take it here.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for bringing me here.
We'll be moving ahead to another segment. So stay with us.
Welcome back. You're watching Signature Television, and this is Signature Morning. Yesterday it was World Mental Health Day, and it's a day apparently that so many persons don't really, understand what mental health is about. So we took it upon ourselves to actually try to explain with a guest in the studio today. She is Dr. Peace Iheanacho. She's a psychiatric nurse. She would be delving into mental health issues, what mental health really truly is, because again, not so many persons know what mental health is about. Madam, thank you so much for joining us today. We truly appreciate your time.
Thank you. Good morning, Ma. Good morning, Belinda.
All right. What is mental health? Let's even start from there, because again, it's not like malaria where you say, okay, when you're down with malaria, this is a drug you're going to take. Is mental health in any way, affected by the economic situation of a country or someone's pocket? What for you is mental health, and how do you even know you have a mental health issue?
All right, mental health is an aspect of health, because the World Health Organization in 1948 was the first organ to say, for somebody to say that he's healthy, he has to have wellness in 3 domains: physical, social, and psychological, or mental. So from there, we deduced the slogan that there's really no health without mental health. So the mental health component, of course, that definition said it is not merely the absence of a physical ailment or disease. That is, health is not just the absence of maybe a physical ailment, but somebody has to be well in those 3 domains. For the first time, throwing light on the fact that there's actually a significant part of us that is mental, and we have to give attention to it. So when we talk about the mental health aspect of us, we are thinking of those areas that involve our thinking, our emotions, and of course our behavior. Thinking, emotions, behavior. Reason is that by the time you say that somebody is mentally ill, for example, the commonest things you see will be abnormalities or disorders or disruptions in thought processes, in feelings, and in behavior. It is these distortions in these areas that now make it difficult for those people maybe to relate well with every other person, because probably the person is thinking what you are not thinking, or is feeling what you are not feeling. For example, everybody is laughing and the person thinks it is time to cry, and so on. Or everybody is crying and the person suddenly begins to laugh. Or then behavior, which is the commonest one we see. You probably see somebody who is by himself, or who is unkempt, or who is packing rubbish one way or the other. So when we talk about mental health, we are saying that there is well-being in those 3 domains. However, anytime we also talk about illness and health, it is something that is difficult to tangibly hold. Therefore, we talk about features that make somebody know that is not mentally, or that is having challenges, not necessarily having challenges. For example, everybody undergoes stress. And then you see the person that is having challenges is not able to manage the stress, at least normal stresses. We know that certain stresses are actually above limit. But then when somebody is mentally healthy, you see a lot of resilience. That is, the person, even after stretching, the person is able to bounce back. And then you say that person is mentally healthy. But if somebody is having challenges in the area of mental health, you could see that normal stresses could become too much. The person, tends to succumb. I like to use the word succumb when there is, when those stresses are there. So, and then we talk about somebody's ability to have a realistic view and estimation of oneself and one's abilities. Yeah, if you're mentally ill, it doesn't really, if you're mentally healthy, you don't really feel bad to say, I cannot do this. And then when you cannot do it, and when you know you cannot do it, it doesn't throw you off. You don't begin to think that, oh, something is out of sync because I couldn't handle it, and so on and so forth. Of course, talk about relating with people, having the right amount of friends when you should have different levels of friendship. I'm talking about it in a layman's language. I used to tell students that, in teaching this, I would say, you have a circle of friends. There are different levels of relationship. Everybody can be intimate, yet everybody cannot be distant and all that. So these are all features in mental health. So you have the right kinds of relationships and so on.
So how do you differentiate between common stress? You talked about stress, you talked about anxiety, and how do you differentiate between that stress or anxiety and more serious mental conditions?
Well, common stresses, everybody undergoes one. When he was asking me, he said something about pocket, and everybody knows that the pocket is a very, very important source of stress at this time.
You mean poor amount of money or small amount of money is in your pocket can cause mental stress?
Not having enough. We're not having enough, in relation to the things that you need to do.
Yeah. Can cause mental stress. Can
cause
mental.
It's a stress in itself.
Okay.
It's a stress in itself. But you see that so many people are able to somehow get by. They don't go to maybe begin to steal.
Okay.
Because they don't have enough. And probably they don't begin to maybe go crazy, in quotes. We don't normally use that word, or maybe indulge in other behaviors that are also counterproductive. So when you have that stress, that's normal for everybody. But that's not to say that sometimes people don't really get into extreme situations, even with this issue of pockets, For example, in addition to the normal things, you see somebody experiencing different losses, maybe within a short period of time. Talk of maybe losing a home, losing a job, and so on. And then they are in quick succession. So you see that for some people, it will become too much. And then if you go to the hospital, what we normally see is that we will say that this person was well until. And that well until usually becomes a trigger. That was at the point the person couldn't take the stress in whatever dimension is coming.
So how does the individual, him or herself, know that at this moment, this is the limit, I am getting depressed, or it is becoming a mental issue?
Well, without being instructed, people don't really know. And that underscores issues like mental health awareness, like we do on mental health days, So it's generally the importance of awareness. For example, somebody tells you there's a limit to what you can bear. You mustn't put yourself, some of us put ourselves almost in everything. But there's a limit to what you can bear. Another thing about mental health awareness is that you get to tell somebody, look, some of those things can be too much. And then when you feel too pressured, look for help. Talk to somebody. Talking to somebody is very, very significant. You might not even know that you are going to succumb, but then you're feeling, I'm having too much already. Talk to somebody. It is true that in our environment, so many people don't listen. But one of the best things you do for yourself is, first of all, self-care, and then learning to talk to another person. Because when we share a problem, we say it's half solved, isn't it? Yeah. You know, somehow, when you open up, it's like opening the window and air comes in. You know the kind of suffocation you feel when the windows are all locked. But when you speak, you air.
Talking about speaking, you know, it's as if everybody, like yesterday, which was the mental health day, we see from one of our newspapers that health facilities see 200% rise in mental health cases, and they listed a lot of things, you know, that can that contribute to these rights, like inflation, flood victims, even pump price. Now it seems as if everyone in Nigeria now is kind of not mentally stable because of what is happening. So you would be wondering, who are you going to talk to? Because if you're talking to me, I have my problems too. I might probably not mentally be stable. So how do we navigate, knowing who to talk to and who is going to accept?
Well, let me also talk about the way I try to manage students in the class. I know that very few people actually have knowledge of what it takes.
Okay.
And I also, that's why I encourage, as I'm encouraging you now, you know that even though you are under stress, you might be better than one person out there. When I say we don't have a lot of listeners, that's really true. You don't even need to be a healthcare worker. Most of the time, we are also preoccupied about ourselves. But, you know, anybody can actually listen. And probably when you listen to somebody, it's not really going to tell you, do all the cognitive behavioral therapy, do all this therapy. No. Just somebody to say, it's not only you. See me, I am also. See my own. Sometimes you are looking at another person. He's saying his own. Oh, look at that. You are treating yourself. You say, I thought I'm even all alone. You know, something like that. Even though there are professionals too. The truth is that most health professionals, well, let me talk about doctors and nurses. We have this basic training. You cannot be a trained nurse, RN, the most basic, without undergoing certain courses in mental health, just so that you'll be able to at least listen. Do you understand? At least listen. And if you cannot afford any help, you can at least advise, this is a place to go.
But then how do you think that people who know now, before we get to the unknown, because some persons move around that they don't even know they have mental issues. For those who know that they have mental issues, how do you think that they could come out of it? Because I have also heard that you don't even really need drugs, even though some people would also say that there are some drugs that can help with mental issues, depending on the kind of mental health that you have. If it is economic mental health, you need money, or maybe you need a high-paying job. If it is other one, I mean, you need God, you go to church or something. Yeah. So it all depends on the person or individuals. But then, generally, how do people come out of mental health problems?
I will still continue from where we stopped. When you are aware, then you seek help. That's a few pivots or focal points of some of these things we say. And no matter what mental health organization or initiative it is, they will say, let us know, one. Then number two, let us not shy away. Number three, let us seek help. And of course, for everybody, let us not stigmatize. It can be anybody. One of the things I say in class is, mental health is a problem of living. mental illness is a problem. I mean, mental illness is a problem of living. Just like she talked about pump price. Somebody, it can hit the person so hard. Yet another person might just be taking it with equanimity, moving on as if nothing happened. So, number one, let's all know. Okay, you talk about the person that has problem and he knows. I mean, there's nothing else to tell the person except seek help. Yes, if you ask question, you will get to understand, maybe where you can get, help. Yeah, people should, but when you are talking about asking questions, why we don't ask questions? It's because of stigma. One of the things we want to have in mental health is let's have open discussion. There's nothing too different.
Okay, but
from
again,
this kind of illness and other illnesses.
Right.
But because we shroud it in secrecy, we don't get help. So seek help.
Are there specific food that someone can eat that can help mental situations?
Generally, eating well. And when we talk about eating well, those traditional things we know about, not too much of this, not too much of this, a balance of this, that, and all that, plenty of maybe water, vegetables and all that, and then rest. Being able to tell yourself, oh, this far I cannot go beyond. It's including yours truly. People tell us, but how much do we do that? Is another question of another day or another time. But truly, when you maintain general health, because again, physical ailments has something, in fact, almost every physical ailment has some mental health concomitants. Yes, it can make you feel anxious, and when you are anxious, you already entered the mental health area.
Okay, so
it can make
there are
you,
stages, right?
No, I'm saying even physical ailments can affect you mentally. For example, you can get anxious. And when you are anxious, you are in the domain of mental health, mental illness already, even though it might be a mild one. Then, a physical ailment can make you depressed. And that is the domain of mental illness. But what triggered it? Physical condition. So I am trying to answer that question by saying when you eat well and you stay healthy, you have already contributed to your mental health. Yeah, but I know when we talk about eating well, again, we know it's relative. It's a relative thing, but I know I also try to say not too much of anything. For example, in these are parts of the world, because of the cheaper foods are the starches and the carbohydrates and things. And then somehow we have also come to, make this kind of fast food has become status symbol here. And there is no awareness that some of those things can at least trigger physical health conditions. And anybody, for example, that has some of the flagship ones, diabetes, hypertension, cannot be balanced mentally. Reason is at least that problem of having to take drugs every day. It can hit people hard. And so, when you have these chronic conditions already, you are grappling with problems of mental health. So it's all related. Remember, we are talking about health, really. And if there is health, it means that mentally, physically, and socially, you are experiencing well-being.
Okay, today is International Day of the Girl Child, and we know, the girl child usually undergo certain stereotypes in the society and pressure. So how do you advise that a girl child can, manage their mental health? And again, you're a psychiatric nurse. How do you manage your mental health?
One of the commonest things, I incidentally also manage young girls because I teach them. One of the commonest, and from experience, one of the commonest ways that young girls should, in fact, everybody, young people should manage their mental health is, don't go into something that will bring you regrets later. Regret is one thing that you stay with. You don't tell anybody. Our people say, when you're regretting, you don't tell your fellow. So that thing is very, very important for mental health. That you cannot lie down quietly and nothing is bugging your conscience. Is a lot. So many people begin there to get into depression. And of course, some of the commonest things for young people, especially girls again, is depression. So any behavior, any association that will take away your boldness, at least before yourself, because you know that you might actually put up a facade, but inside you are not able to face yourself. Leave it. No matter how beautiful that relationship or that action looks, how acceptable, how conforming it is to society, but you can't face yourself. That's the biggest. So many times you see that, you know, something is plaguing somebody, eating him up inside, and then there's another little trigger. Most of the time, one thing will not do it. But there's this, and this person has been weakened somewhere on the inside, maybe because of something in the past. I tell them blatantly, no, you don't have to. Don't be like the Joneses. Don't meet up with the standards. Just be at peace with yourself. Yeah.
Wow. Second question, how do you manage your own mental health?
Well, like I said already, that when it comes to personal, you also now think about how far have you gone. You know, I mentioned rest. And for me, I see that's one thing I don't do, and it is not good. Okay. But the commonest thing I do is I share, because sharing brings in air. I share. That's about my strongest. Of course, my trust in God, my use of the word of God to, you know, affect my mind many times. Say it, you know, say to yourself what you believe the Bible says for me. Because there's a lot about mental health in scriptures. For example, when you say something like, do not fret because of this or this, or my soul, why are you disquieted within me? It's scripture, but that's me talking to myself also, because somebody who is disquieted inside may be depressed. And so if I pick it up, I say, why are you? So this positive self-talk one, which for me is normally based on scripture, and then airing.
Wow. Okay, just to wrap up, because we just have around 2 minutes. If you can answer in 2 minutes, just quickly do that. 2 questions. One is, what for you is the biggest challenge working with mental health patients? And what are the signs of a mental health situation? If you see something, how do you know that this is a mental health patient?
All right. There are so many. I already said before that when somebody is mentally ill, you always, especially at the point where people have to see, you always see disorders of either thoughts, which will manifest either in the way the person talks, disorder.
When it talks erratically or talks coolly, or whether they used to be very flamboyant, but now they're now timid. Like, what's the sign? Because again, when you see somebody for the first time, you don't know them. How do you know that they are mentally ill? Or is it that somebody has to know somebody for a while for you to be able to identify that this person is?
You can actually notice mental illness when you see, but then it has progressed from the areas we call maybe prodromal stages to frank illness. For example, if you see somebody that is in the area of speaking, depending on the type, if somebody is depressed, he can hardly talk. And the answering is usually monosyllables. Monosyllables is like, you know, you see that the person is having trouble bringing out the word. But if you see somebody on the other, you know, it's a pole, one end, the other end. The opposite end of that depression, the person is excited. He's talking to the dozen. He cannot stop talking. You know, from this to this to this to this, you know, he's jumping from this, talking about, oh, before he begins to praise this person, he'll say, oh, look at that friend. all that. And you know, burst of energy. It just depends on the time. So we are just talking of this one that is in the area of mood. It's either the person is so depressed, he can hardly, you know, depression is such a burden. The person cannot even think about, oh, do people eat is a problem. Can, you know, taking your bath. That's why you see a depressed person is unkempt. You see a manic person, the opposite end is unkempt. The other one is depressed because he lacks emotional energy. There's nothing. He cannot do anything. He doesn't also sleep. One of the things they begin to see, apart from talking, first of all, they begin to withdraw. And then they don't sleep. Then they stop eating. Then if it is the person who we talk, some people will even begin by becoming too prayerful. And you would think that, oh, he's becoming prayerful. Before you know, you see the person not sleeping. No matter how prayerful, at a time you should sleep. And then he's avoiding food. And every time it's like this, you just have to look again. And then before you know it, he's not wanting to take his bath because he's not thinking in that direction. The preoccupation doesn't come to that side at all.
Wow.
Then the other end, the person is not bathing, is not eating, is not sleeping. Why? Because the activities in the brain are too much. You know, flight of ideas, is thinking from this to this, jumping. You know how people say the reason they say somebody is mad is because before he finishes talking one thing, another person, another one jumps in, and that's a typical manic patient, the opposite pole of depression.
Wow.
Now, if you're talking about something like schizophrenia, you now begin to see thought disorders. Somebody might be telling you, oh, they are talking about me. That's very, very common with schizophrenia. They are talking about me. And you see them agitated. How do you feel when you see, you know that people are talking about you and they are not involving you? You know, you feel threatened, is it not? What we call auditory hallucination. They begin to hear people talking. Some of them will say, oh, and then they'll feel persecuted. They are coming to do things to me. They want to harm me. They want to, some of them, somebody, I call them my friends. They will say, they are coming from outer space to use laser beams to take something from my brain. And the thing is so organized. You cannot persuade the person. You can't persuade the person. And so if you say anything, he, you know, links you to the people, you're also siding there. I can get violent at you just because of that voice is hearing where people are talking about him. They usually don't include him. He's a third person discussion, you know. And so the person feels threatened. And then he believes they are coming to harm him. And so on. Some people see things. Some people perceive tastes, you know, that are not other people don't perceive. You know, in all the senses, we can have what we call hallucinations, and then we can have the delusions, that the false beliefs.
Wow.
That, you know, like somebody believing that they are coming from outer space. One of them I asked, what's, you know, I was exasperated. I said, what is even too important about it? You say, Auntie, that's what I don't know. You know, and all that.
Wow,
so
that's an interesting conversation, really. I'm sure we're going to call you back to discuss further on this particular topic because it's a large topic and cannot be infused within 30 minutes. But thank you, Dr. Peace Iheanacho, for your time and input on the show this morning.
Thank you so much.
All right. So we're back shortly for another discussion as it relates to the girl child. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Signature Television, and this is Signature Morning. Today is the International Day of the Girl Child, and in commemoration of this, I was stunned at the level of commemoration that the House of Representatives actually put up in the stance that the Speaker had to step down to allow a 16-year-old girl, Miss Nadi, to preside over, some parts of that particular session. And it was quite interesting. But I thought it was just beyond what they did with that commemoration. I thought that they should discuss something more or even act more, especially as it concerns the girl child. The girl child has become more like an endangered species in Nigeria with a lot of things she's facing with no one really listening. To discuss this further is the Honorable Commissioner for Women Affairs in Anambra States, Mrs. Ife Ibinabo. Good to have you. Good morning, madam.
Good morning.
Commissioner, can you hear me? Good morning.
Yes, I can hear you very well. Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's an interesting day. It's a good day to be alive, but then again,
yes,
I'm not sure that it is a day that Nigeria can beat its chest and say that they're doing well with the girl child. Can you tell us some of the things that the Nigerian girl child is facing in today's Nigeria?
Okay. Let me talk Nigerian girl child, and with time I will bring it down to Anambra State girl child as it stands today. Nigerian girl child is facing a whole lot of challenges, starting from rape cases from here to there, and when the economy is harsh and some parents can no longer do what they're supposed to do for the girl child most of the time, the girl child will be directly or indirectly pressures into living an adult's lives. Some of them going into prostitution and some of them getting into early marriage, you know. These are one of the things. I'm sure you're hearing me. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
we can hear you. Yes, I can. I can. Go ahead. Hello, madam.
Okay.
Okay, I think we have a bit of a problem connecting with her, but we would reconnect with
Bad
her.
network, bad network. But I'm back. I'm back.
Okay.
So, like I said, that because of the economic situation in the country, that some of these our girls in Nigeria are being pressured by family members, directly or indirectly, to start living the life they're not supposed to live. Some even drop out of school. Some get into trouble that they are no longer alive to tell their stories by themselves. Some are being raped, some are being killed by these boys in the country looking for money, quick money here and there. So that's soft targets for these bad boys. And some are being pressured into early marriage. You know, some drop out of school. Some are being raped on daily basis by bad boys, by drug addicts. And when they get these children, most of the time, like these bad people in the society, even robbing, they do a whole lot of things. They're soft targets to all these bad people. And I have to bring it down to Anambra State. Before now, before this administration, before they coming into Anambra State, you know, by this administration, Professor Charles Kuma Soludo, the girl child in Anambra State before now, they were passing a through.
Hello, Obinabo, can you hear me?
Yes, it's network. Sorry, the network is too bad here. But the inception of the administration of Professor Chukwumacha Soludo, he's really brought out a good policy to protect the girl child. Like in Anambra State, I would say it's almost 65% solved their problems through the Ministry of Women Affairs, because the governor, Professor Charles Masarudo, gave me and the ministry a mandate to protect the girl child. Like in Anambra State, you can no longer marry out a child. You know, you can't give out your daughter that is not matured, at least not under 18 years in Anambra State. The government will stop you. You can't rape any girl child in Anambra State and go scot-free. Unlike what is happening in some other parts of the country. But in Anambra State, they are being protected to a large extent. On the maltreatment being given to some of them by their guidance, you can't do it again, no matter who you are. I believe that people are hearing and seeing what Mr. Governor is doing in Anambra State in order to protect this girl child. And even the First Lady had to form a club for this, our girls in secondary schools and primary schools. And this club, they are teaching them how to protect themselves, how they should know when the red lights is coming towards them, when their lives are being threatened, how to protect themselves, how to talk to somebody when they're into one problem or the other, that they shouldn't just keep it to themselves. So this administration in Anambra State, they have passion in making sure that the girl child is protected from the beginning to the end.
So for how long have you been doing that? And also, are there, groups you established to monitor this? You talked about maltreatment, for some children that have been maltreated by the guardians and all of that. Are there monitoring groups, you put in place to know and to checkmate those people, and not just, policies?
Okay, thank you very much. When the first thing Mr. Governor did was to make sure that the citizens, that they have trust in his government. And he has succeeded in doing that. Though we have social workers, we have supporters of good government, and can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, ma.
Yes, we have social workers, we have supporters of good governance, we have NGOs, we have Ndi Anambra as a whole, and we have helpline that whenever you commit anything against not just girl child, but we are celebrating the girl child today. So let's focus on girl child. Anywhere you are doing anything to the girl child, the rest assured that somebody is videoing you. If you are doing it right inside your house, somebody is making calls. They are calling us. Even in short, everybody right now in Anambra State is a monitor. Let me use that word. We are all monitoring what is happening in Anambra State. Whistleblowers, we make sure that when we have the whistleblower, we protect the whistleblower. You won't even know where the whistleblower is coming from, and we will make use of that information. We don't discard any information. Instead, we will go through it. If it's not the way the person, painted the story, the picture, we can now withdraw, but caution them. So, all the agencies, they've known that Mr. Governor is really out to protect the girl child. So anything that has to do with the girl child, even the CP gave them instruction that anything that has to do with girl child in Anambra State and Ministry of Women Affairs that we are involved in it, that they should treat with every seriousness. No bail should be granted to the person, the suspect. So we take things that concern them very, very seriously, and we handle it very well with every seriousness.
All right. I mean, there are people who say that one of the major issues that the girl child is facing is early marriage. Sometimes these girls are, sold off. They are even given without their consent. So at the age of, say, 12, 13, 15, as the case may be. Are there measures to check some of these things?
Actually, it doesn't happen in Anambra State any longer. It doesn't happen in Anambra State. There was one that tried to happen, and some people from the village gave us information, because I can't go exposing our whistleblowers. They gave us information. We went there, talked to everybody, and they flee, they ran away. It can't happen in contemporary society we have now.
All right. We still have the Commissioner of Women Affairs in Anambra States on the line, speaking to the issues regarding the girl child and what the challenges are. Madam, thank you for joining us again. But go ahead. You were trying to make a point.
Yes, I say that it doesn't happen in Anambra State. Like I said, there was a time it tried to happen, and we got some information. So many people, whistleblowers, called us, and we had to swing into action. We went to the village, we met the parents, we met the Igwe, the traditional ruler of the place, and we told them that this can't happen, that if it happens, that we're going to take them, charge them to court. because Mr. Governor went ahead and gave us designated courts for accelerated hearing. So it's no more issue of when are you if you go to court, are you sure this thing is going to take how many years and all that? As we are charging the person to court, we have our own magistrate. The person, the hearing will
Hello, madam.
be, done without. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, we'll have some issues with the connection with Madam
I'm back. It's network. Network has been bad for some time. So it comes and goes.
Okay.
But I'm back.
Yeah. Is there other, collaborations between the Ministry of Women Affairs and the traditional institutions? Because sometimes some of these things happen in rural areas where, there will be no opportunity for someone to blow the whistle. Because some of these things, when they do happen, you only find out when somebody is able to record something and send or maybe tell you the stories. And some of these things happen in the hinterlands, way far from the towns. Are there collaborations between the Women Affairs Ministry and local village heads in order to make sure that some of this harmful stuff against the girl child don't continue?
Yes, definitely. We can succeed without this collaboration between us and the traditional rulers. We collaborate with the PGs. We collaborate with even the vigilantes, the Umuokpos, all of them, the churches. And from time to time, we carry out sensitization. We have interfacing with all of them, group by group, explaining to them the mandate of Mr. Governor, so that they will know the actual thing expected that they should be doing. So here in Anambra State, we write letters, they come, we meet and all that, and they know, they even immediately such a thing is trying to happen. Most of the time, they will even be the people that will call us and alert us so that we can come and join them in fighting the war. So we have this system on ground, and that's the reason we are recording the success the way we are doing right now. Mr. Governor believes that you cannot work in isolation. Like the Commissioner for Local Government, he knows that I work with him. And anytime I bring up issues like this, he joins me and even organize meetings between us and the traditional ruler of PG involved. And they will help us definitely. And with this free education that Mr. Governor gave out in Anambra State, it has really helped a lot. Because during school hours, we just go to streets, villages, we have groups placed that they monitor, make sure that no girl child is seen outside the school while school is going on. School hours, you are not permitted to be walking around. You are supposed to be in school with other kids. That's the system we have on ground in Anambra State.
So are there shelters and counseling services, for girls who are victims of abuse or violence or,
yes,
drug trafficking of person?
We have shelters. And even if you have parents, we don't easily release these victims to their parents. I'll tell you why. We'll try to give them total.
Honorable, are you there?
Case. So we give them total package. So not just charging the suspect to court, we take in the victim. So we can give the victim psychotherapy. We can take her to hospital. We can talk to her, make sure that she comes out of the trauma. And we can keep the victim. So they won't, because at times if you allow her to go back with the parents, you see these suspects taking advantage of the vulnerability of the family to probably give them peanuts, money, so that they will disappear. So we try to keep them, give them shelter, put them in our shelter so we can protect them. All the homes we have in Anambra State, we try to keep them. Like the other time we raided one hospital where they used teenagers for this, the so-called crypto pregnancy, illegal adoption. We kept the children for almost 1 year. And the suspect, as I'm talking with you, is in the prison, chilling off. So we don't play with such thing at all. Even the little girl that was abused by one lawyer, Adachuku, I don't know if you heard about it. The Adachuku of a woman is still in the prison. And it was just last week that we handed over the girl to Enugu state government because they gave her scholarship when they heard of what happened and the way the administration of Professor Chukwumacha Soludo is handling it. So they said, okay, that they will support us. And they gave her free education, scholarship. So this administration don't play at all with a girl child. You cannot abuse any girl child in Anambra State and get scot-free.
Are you also collaborating with other states in Southeast, to make sure that these reforms are being put in place?
Yes, we are doing that. My colleague in other states, I know that I've worked with, I'm still working with the gender commissioner in Enugu State. We work from time to time. She's a vibrant commissioner. I work with the one in Ebonyi State. I've also worked with the one in River State, Cross River State and Imo State. So we've been working, we work together, because without doing that, we won't be able to succeed.
Okay, are there other things, you disburse to schools or to these students or to these children, the girl child, to make them feel important? Because some of these children, they have the stereotypes that, oh, you're a girl, you're not a boy, even from the parents, even from the family. You see families telling a girl child, oh, I wish you were a boy, you don't know you're supposed to be, carry yourself somehow, I don't know. So they grow up with that stigma.
Yes, we do that. No, that in Anambra State, girls are being celebrated. Thank God for the type of first lady we have. She knows what we are doing based on Mr. Governor's instruction, the husband. And the first lady came out and formed these clubs for these girls, where she built their self-esteem, where she tells them on a daily basis why they should carry themselves, why they should, have this mindset that as a woman, you shouldn't just end your career in the kitchen, that you can still be a known person positively in the society, entrepreneur in the society as a girl child. In Anambra State, we don't play with them. And through these clubs that I told you that I've been taught a whole lot of things, even their rights, we teach them their rights. The first lady from time to time go ahead share even parts like this period now. They've started sharing it to so many schools and NGOs because they know the kind of administration we have in Anambra State. They've joined, so many of them that are sharing a whole lot of things to celebrate our girls in Anambra State. So we'll try as much as we can to organize meetings, conference, and talk to them. And we do sensitization too through medias, social media, electronics, and all that.
Okay, so how is the ministry taking up the responsibility of access to health care, especially for the girl child, as it relates to sexual and reproductive health?
Okay. I know we have ASHA, that's insurance for families in Anambra State. We have that one on ground. Then it's still in Anambra State. Governor gave free medical treatment to mothers, still in Anambra State. If anything happens, we have referral centers in Anambra State. In these referral centers, we have not just doctors that are specially trained to take care of these girls when this kind of thing happens to anybody in Anambra State. So we give them enough medical treatment. We protect them. And in this our club, that's the First Ladies Club, from time to time, the Commissioner for Health and his group will always go visit them, talk to them, use projectors, show them a whole lot of things, how they will be managing themselves. Because most of the time, you see this peer group, it causes a lot too. So it's we need to be talking to them. That's exactly what we are doing, because before now they will always say that if a child doesn't resemble the mother, the child will resemble the father. But most of these children, yes, can you hear me?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just want to squeeze this in. Just you can answer within 1 minute. It's
go
a
ahead.
final question. I mean, the economy, bad economy, has in one way linked to one of the things that the girl child is facing. You know, if the economy is good enough, if more monies are in the pockets of parents, the girl child would be better for it. Is the government of Anambra State open to increase in minimum wage? We all know what's going on in the country. I mean, that's been exacerbated by this fuel pump price that has increased. Is the government of Anambra State willing to up its game, even paying much more than the 70,000 naira that has been proposed by the federal government? Because I know Anambra State is that rich, so that these things can trickle down to the girl child across board.
Yes, they're doing that. They're really planning it very, very seriously. And apart from that, the government of Anambra State is bringing out time to make sure that even as a civil servant, that everybody should go into farming, because farming can only break these things we are talking about. 70,000 naira or even 150, it amounts to nothing as long as this contemporary society in Nigeria is concerned. So they are encouraging them, giving them seedlings, assorted seedlings, making sure they are protected when they go to farm, so that this girl child will be protected. Because when they have money, the parents, all this problem will at least be limited. So Mr. Governor is really going trying very, very hard to make sure that parents don't, get into serious economic hardship that would, at the end of the day, turn and start affecting the kids.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mrs. Ife Obinabo. Thank you, Honorable Commissioner for Women Affairs, Anambra State. Thank you for your time this morning.
You're welcome.
All right, this is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of Signature Morning. And of course, you had a lot of programs we have lined up for you, Charles.
Are we going now? Are you rushing to somewhere? I thought this was still some minutes to 10 o'clock. So we're still here. We'll be back shortly after this break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching the Signature Morning Show. And today, just because it was World Mental Health Day yesterday, we're continuing the discussions regarding that. We're going to expand on the discussions we've had earlier. And Dr. Vincent Ubochi would assist us in expanding on that because he is very vast in that regard. He is the Chief Consultant Psychiatrist, Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital in ENUGU State. Good to have you. Good morning, sir.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much. And thank you, viewers.
Fabulous. I mean, there's so many people who speak about mental health, but they really don't even know what it is. And most of it, in fact, Nigeria don't even take into cognizance the issue of mental health. Why do you think this is? And how should we be reacting to issues relating to mental health?
Well, that's it's so sad that the society plays down on the issue relating to mental health, because they tend to attribute mental health as a mental illness. And because when they see mental illness, they have their own view about mental illness. But mental health is not mental illness.
Okay.
It is not mere absence of mental illness. It has to do with a state of well-being that enables people, you and me and the greater society, everybody there, to cope with stresses of life, which everybody has every day. The hassles of the road, the workplace, the hassles of everything you talk about, economy and everything, coping with the stresses. To realize their abilities, that means anything that prevents you from realizing your ability affects your mental health, no matter how and where. And also to learn well, because we keep learning every day in order to improve. As well as to work well also, because wherever we work, we have to put in our best and be satisfied with our output in whatever we are doing. Not only that, to relate well with people also. In the road with the bus drivers, to relate well with bus drivers, conductors, everybody that comes across our way during our daily lives, relating well with them means a lot. And also to contribute to their society. Anybody that lacks any aspect of all this, and many more that are not included in what I'm talking about, what I just mentioned, is not having good mental health.
So it's your ability to be able to overcome every single stress that comes at you, because it's impossible not to have those stresses because they're normal, you're a human being, so you could come through with those stresses, and your ability to be able to overcome them and still maintain sanity is what you do.
Exactly, because you have to cope with it, you have to navigate and still relax. Yeah, you are walking, you are not crying about your child that was sick in the hospital. You are not worried about your house that will be boggled at home. You are not fearing that NEPA will cut your, EDC will cut your line next week because of the cost. You are not afraid on how you are going to drive home. You are not worried also about how you are going to get food for your children when you get home. If all these things are there, you are not having good mental health. It is different from mental illness, because mental illness is whenever this is causing distress to you and also causing distress to the society because you cannot cope with them, then you have maybe say adjourned to have mental illness. And there are various types of mental illness.
What for you is the way to cope? Stress are normal, they would come. So as someone who is a doctor in this regard, how do you maintain certain sanity in the face of all of these challenges? Because it's not everybody that has the capacity to stave off these stresses that comes at them. There's some that will break down because of the emotions that comes with it. How do you stay above board?
Yeah, this one leads us to the theme of the mental health, World Mental Health Day that we had yesterday, at least at workplace. He said, it is time to prioritize mental health at workplace. That is the theme. He's calling on people, the government, everybody, every concerned individuals that has issue relating to the well-being of the world or the people at large, to prioritize mental health at workplace. And you find out that with at least how many percent, the number of percentage of Nigerians that are working in order to make their living. If you don't work, you cannot pay. Almost everybody that is within the adult range to adult range, and even sometimes this time around children are being used to work, you know. So if the workplace, your office, your market, your audience are not providing the enabling environment for you to work, you are having an issue. And that means that if we can enhance the capacity of us to put in our best in our workplace, and also get the requisite benefit that is required to enable us achieve our main objective of picking up that job and receiving the requisite income, then we have good mental health. So the sensitization here now drives us to ensure that we, as people working in any office at all, has the capacity now that we have safety. As we are here now, we are afraid that some people will stop into this studio in the next minute to abduct us. Definitely while you are working, you'll be scanning around and you'll be productive. Everybody will say, I hope this person is okay. That's what the viewers will look at. So you don't have good mental health. So if we can provide that safety in our workplace, that is one of the ways to help us challenge our stresses that is related to that. Not only that, also discrimination in work. Like if you come here, you perform better than the next person, but this person is being promoted more than you, or you are older than this person in the profession and you have been giving your best. Suddenly somebody came up today because of where you are coming from and the tribe you are from, or from the religious sect you are from. Now they throw you out and bring on apparently unqualified person to head you. Definitely they are destroying your mental health. So in offices, that is one of the ways such things can be prevented. Not only that, also selection criteria is also important. Selecting the best qualified. The best qualified, not the best that triggered, for instance, I said, this is my anointed child, please take him. And that person cannot even answer the questions in the interview. So when you look at it, you'll be wondering, that he cannot even perform. Even common tasks cannot carry out common tasks. So all those things are the challenges we have. Assuming you are there, you are best qualified. Definitely your guess is as good as mine. Not only also income. You know, the civil servants, the labor union has been crying for increase in salary for the wages of workers. I don't know whether the word decrease can do anything or the same. There is fuel hike. There is a electricity tariff hike. There is tax hike. There is interest rate hike because some of the civil servants borrow from the bank with their salary and they'll be cutting it as the salary comes. With interest rate of 41% now, from about 24% to 41% from bank to bank. I don't know how that can be possible if you have challenges you want to do. As you are retiring and want to start setting up business to prepare yourself from retirement, then you find out that you can't borrow from bank because of high interest rates. So there definitely will not have good mental health. But if all such economic indices that affects both macro and micro economy of the nation are being addressed, definitely your mental health will impact on your mental health. But if not, sometimes we cannot cope. You give in, and they say you have mental disorders. Job insecurity. Today you're at work, we're like bankers. That's the commonest area I know about that. You are going to your work the next day. To log into your system, it got blocked. That means that's an information to you that you are being sacked. No prior knowledge, no prior nothing. I wonder how many people that can cope with that kind of condition. And if you peer into the reason why you are being sacked, you may not have any cogent reason, So because of one or two things. Now that is now in workplace. Now we are advocating to introduce what we call EPA. What is EPA means? EPA means employees. That's EPA. A situation where you set up a group or a part of the workers to investigate on the problem of the worker. Now I'm a perpetual latecomer in the workplace. You've not bothered to know why am I coming late. Maybe I'm taking care of my aged mother that is bedridden. I'm doing this and that and that and that, this and that, having all sorts of challenges, taking my child to the school after that, and doing all those things. What has the workplace provided in order to help me cope with some of these challenges? These are the things the EPA, that is the, we call it, if I remember it, the full meaning of it, I'll remember it. It just escaped my memory now. So, those are the things they do. They address individuals' challenge at workplace, and that affects them not to do their work. And as I say, you see that work performance is indirectly or inversely proportional to the mental health. With poor mental health, definitely your work output will definitely be affected. Coming back to the question you talked about, generally, there are many things we can do in order to improve our mental health. Many people go to social media, from people who have advocated both that are good, bad, and ugly. But what is important is that we raise from childhood our children to learn how to be resilient. Because sometimes we harass our children to the point that they become fearful every time. When they see people, they run inside their house because of the way they believe that their father is a terror, or their mother is whatever they think that is negative. So in that instance, we expect the mothers to start early to build strong attitude and character in their children from the beginning, so that when they are being challenged, they're already from childhood well-equipped. I was listening to the girl child when the former commissioner for Anambra State Women Affairs was saying that they teach them strategies to address and to challenge such confrontation. If you don't have that capacity, you fall a victim. And when you fall a victim and you are highly traumatized, definitely you are predisposed to poor mental health, and you may develop mental health challenges as a result. So those are the things we try to build in our children early enough. Another thing we need to do is, when we are faced with crisis, speak out. It is unfortunate that we see psychiatrists as those that are treating, in quotes, I'm regretting using this word, mad people. I'm sorry using it, but I don't want to drive it home. And as a matter of fact, you are mad yourself. Even our friends that are supposed to be open and associate with us openly try to associate with us in the secret, because they will say maybe they are mad to be seeing psychiatric doctors. But the best friend you have on earth that will help you walk through all your crises is a psychiatrist. Imagine being with a psychiatrist discussing your challenges. It's not mental health problem, or it's not mental illness or radio. And the person will be seeing it from the professional point of view and advise you from the beginning. If there's a practices, if you need psychotherapy, if you need counseling, if you need ordinary advice, the person can give you ordinary advice. And give you how coping mechanisms. There are what we call coping styles. Everybody has coping style. Some people, if I know you now, you will draw. And keep it in your... In short, to be frank, just 2 days ago, I was with a friend. They're trying to outwit him in something. And he said he want them to complete that scene before he can challenge them. I said, confront them now. He confronted them. Now, those people are the people running around to make peace with him, not him running to make peace now.
Yeah.
So when he went home, he called me that he slept well the whole night because of what was happening. And he kept abreast, telling me everything as it goes. So you see, sometimes our inaction at a particular time creates a very big problem for us. Some commit suicide because they turn that aggression inwards. Instead of expressing it to people to guide them, ventilating to people and talking to them. I don't say this one when you are kidnapped. You don't go and see a psychiatrist. That is the only succor, or well-trained clinical psychologist. These are the only succor you have. going to tell your pastor, your this, and what do, some of them are knowledgeable anyway. But these are the people that will give you clear information on what we are
So
going to
how
need.
accessible are these mental health services to populations in rural areas and of course to all these vulnerable people out there?
Yes, it's very, very important that because this question is very important because what our hospital has been trying to embark on since, but trying to get in the buy-in of the government, Federal News Academy Hospital, the buy-in of the government into the system is establishing mental health facilities or mental health services in the community. That's the community mental health. That is the key way to do it. Imagine every primary health care center in the village is accessible, is affordable. You just walk in there to see a mental health professional there to guide you through some of these problems. If it's something that requires high-level operation, they refer to a bigger person that is more vast in the process. So establishing primary community mental health services is the key to creating that accessibility. Otherwise, you transfer yourself or you transport yourself to such a distance to see the few mental health professionals that exist.
All right, Dr. Vincent, I want to say a very big thank you. This is so profound, and you explained it in the way the layman would understand exactly what it is, and we truly appreciate you, and I'm sure that we are going to invite you once again to have more time to explain further these issues. This is very important issues. It's so sad that most people don't incorporate these things in their daily discussions. We hope that this changes as time builds up. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much.
For your time.
Thank you, viewers. Please make your mental health your priority, especially at your workplace.
Very important. Dr. Vincent Obochi is the Chief Consultant Psychiatrist, Federal Neuropsychiatrist Hospital, ENUGU State. Thank you so much for being a fantastic friend all through the morning and up through the week as well. We're coming to an end to this particular broadcast, at least for now. We're back Monday morning for another fine time. But again, we have a new day on Saturday and Sunday, and some other programs lined up for your pleasure. My name is Charles Pius.
And I am Belinda Mobodo.
very good morning to you and welcome to Signature Morning. My name is Godwin Sunday. The federal government has exempted 63 key items from the value-added tax VAT as part of its fiscal reforms aimed at boosting economic growth. Chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, Taiwo Oyedele, disclosed this in an official gazette, even to a pressman. And looking at the generality of the harsh economic policies in the government, alleged harsh policies in the, by the All Progressive Congress administration and other policies being put in place, and this current tax reforms and policy initiated by this administration. We're trying to look at it. How best does this suit Nigerians? Are Nigerians also reacting negatively to these various tax reforms, or is a welcome development to the Nigerian economy? Joining me in the conversation right now is Nick Agule, who is a public affairs analyst, and he will be doing justice to this particular discourse. You're welcome to Signature Morning, Nick.
Thank you so very much, Godwin, and I'm happy to be here. And good morning to our viewers.
All right, let's even get into the conversation. What do you make? Well, initially, when you heard about the VAT reforms and the fiscal policy reforms by the federal government, what came to your mind?
What came to my mind is that it's a good thing, because reform is what we need. Every process, as we have it, can be bettered. And so when government is taking specific steps to change and make things better and more seamless in whatever sector it is, to add value, to add more value, is a good thing. It should be encouraged. But specifically speaking about the tax reform, I think that there are basic fundamentals of taxation which the current tax laws were not following in Nigeria. And that is, everybody in the country needs to pay their fair share of taxes. And in Nigeria, what you see is the people on the lower ladder in the economy are the ones paying taxes. If you go to the paper market now, people are busy collecting taxes from the women who are selling in that market. So they pay taxes every day. You look at people who are operating Okada, for instance, the motorcycle business, as we call it, taxes and all of that. They are being levied taxes every day. But we are not seeing that same level of taxation from the wealthy of Nigeria. So that's one thing that needs to change. Elsewhere, governments tax the wealthy a lot, and then they use that money to support the poor people. That is number one. Tax bracket needs to expand. Number two, the application of the tax revenues that have been generated. Elsewhere, you can clearly see what tax revenues are doing in the economy. There are visible signs in the education, in the healthcare, in the road infrastructure, in the transportation. In all of those sectors, you can see what taxation is doing. We don't see what taxation is doing in Nigeria, you know? And so that's another problem. So most times we talk about revenues in Nigeria, everybody is talking about oil revenues. When oil revenues are dwindle, our economy is said to be crying. But government is actually run by taxation. And you know, if government is run by taxation, it puts the citizens in the same boat with those who are leading us, because they would like to see what is happening to their money. But because taxation is not the game that government is using now to fund activities, a lot of people think that government money belongs to government. It doesn't belong to them. You know, so fundamentally, as these reforms are happening, the core attributes of a good tax system, even under the current laws that we have that have been missing, is more important. It's one needs to be put on the table and operated as it is.
All right, thank you so much, Nick, for that particular response. We'll take a short break right now. And when we come back, we will still continue and all the conversations. Please stay with us as Signature Morning is just starting.
Why do people evade tax? Why is it that the propensity or the tendency to evade tax is very high in Nigeria? It has to do with the social contract, the failure on the part of government, to fulfill its own part. Okay, a situation where individuals or firms provide virtually everything they need that the government ought to have provided. Okay, things like power, for example. If you're a small business, you have to bother about power. You get a generator. Water. You provide your own water. You provide your own security. You at some point you have to also help to do the road to your office and so on. So when you look at all these things, it does not encourage people to voluntarily say they want to pay tax, because on the part of government, they also feel the government is slacking. Government is not meeting its own responsibility. So that is the failure of the social contract, that has been with us.
A very good morning and welcome back to Signature Morning. This morning we are going to be also monitoring situations going on in the PDP Secretariat even. And this morning where we heard that the faction of the party has sacked the national chairman and the secretary and also the legal advisor of the party. And we try to also monitor the situation. Our correspondent who is at the PDP Secretariat here in Abuja will be bringing us up to speed on what's going on in PDP Secretariat this morning. Joining me is Nasiru, who is my colleague and is at PDP Secretariat this morning. And Nasiru, good morning.
Good morning, Godwin.
All right, can you quickly bring us up to speed on what's going on in PDP Secretariat this morning?
Okay, earlier this morning, the news broke that the faction of the People's Democratic Party have suspended the national chairman, Umar Damago, and some other party men, and it's kind of frustrating to be in the way situation in Nigeria is now. We had the story and we had that there be a press conference at the national headquarters. So I arrived at the national headquarters a few minutes to 10 and I spoke with the security people that, okay, I came for a press briefing, and they said, okay, I can go inside. But when I get into the compound, I noticed that at the Wadada Plaza, nothing is happening. I was like, what is happening here? So I have to ask some people that are working here. So I was going to go to this. There'll be a press conference at this one, and to my greatest shock, a lot of them were like, they are not aware of it. They don't know what's happening. So for now, the place is calm and everywhere is cold. There's nothing such that is happening for now.
All right, Nasiru, while you're still at the PDP Secretariat, have you observed any form of riot, protest, or gathering of any sort of people that are displeased with the faction's decision of suspending Ilya, who is the chairman of the party?
Because for now the place is calm and cool. Everybody's just going on with their daily activities. Because I haven't tried to enter the room where if there's any press conference or if there's any where the PDP usually use, the place was locked this morning. I tried to get into one of the people were like, oh, they've not come. I don't think they're going to come today. But for now, there's nothing is happening, and everywhere was just cool. People are just going on with their daily activities. There, no protest, nothing. For now, the PDP Secretariat is cool and calm.
All right, so no form of security beef up around that area. Looking at this whole protest, because we're expecting that the PDP chieftain even speak to us in the course of the program. But so far, how is the security situation in that environment?
Oh, okay. Concerning about the security environment, the security is calm and good. But I saw a police officer that I think she's working here, so she's just working and she's doing her normal work. But the place is calm and there's no any form of violence or any other thing in the national secretariat of the PDP.
All right,
so for now, I think everything is good and calm.
All right, Nasiru, in the course of the program, probably if there's any development, you can bring us up to speed with it. So I want to say thank you so much, Nasiru, for joining us in that conversation.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
All right, let's come back to you, Mr. PDP. And again, Nigerian looking at fiscal policy, and now PDP is going another direction from there. But it is our country. What can we say? But what do you make of this development, even in People's Democratic Party?
So there is a game going on with the PDP, as we have seen since the conduct of the last election. Even before the conduct of the last election, you will hear of the G5. These were PDP governors that had come together under the leadership of then Governor. And they were openly protesting against whatever had with their party, the PDP. And at the end of the day, as we saw during the elections, former Governor pitched his tent with the APC presidential candidate, who is now president. Benue State Governor, for instance, pitched his tent with Mr. Peter Obi, who was the Labour Party presidential candidate. And that has continued post-elections, whereby the PDP as a party seems to be on a self-destruct mission. You know, the party has not, the organs of the party are not functioning. They've not had a national executive committee meeting. They've not had there is in an acting capacity. So by now, since Yochia Ayu, who was the last substantive chairman, was eased out of office, they've not had an election to replace him. And there are fillers in the political space that finger the current FCT minister, Mr. Yinson Uke, as having a hand in the issues within the PDP. And of course, if I hear former Governor Otom of Benue said he's pitching his tent with President Tinubu for 2027, then it only makes political sense that the weaker the opposition, the better the chances of the APC and their presidential candidate. And that is how you are seeing crisis within the major opposition parties, the PDP and the Labour Party, and even Kwankwaso's NNP.
Yeah.
So it could also be a political game. As if I want to borrow the words of current FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, there could be people who are putting fires inside the PDP, inside the Labour Party, and inside the Kwankwaso's NNPP to make it easier for the APC and their presidential candidate in 2027. But this is all politics. So now what has happened, and I'm just getting to know that a faction has now taken it upon themselves to dislodge the acting ESCO of the PDP, which is the National Working Committee. He's now going to head back to court, you know, and he heads back to court, and it's in court almost in perpetuity, you know, one adjournment after the other, and all that. And if PDP needs to make a strong showing in the 2027 elections, this is the time they should be rebuilding their party. This is not the time they should be in disarray.
But people have also alleged that the PDP, as it stands right now, enjoys some form of our presence is well known in some within the branches, which is like the state, down through to the cell, like the local government. PDP's presence is well known. And this clashes, this misunderstanding is just at the national body. And you've rightly mentioned that there is a delegation that is the president of Mr. Nyesom Wike, the FCT minister, that is behind this. But let's look at all of this put together. You think that PDP stand a chance right now if its house is not in order, even at the national level? They stand a chance of going into any election, substantive election right now, and defeating any political party?
There's no chance if they continue at the current trajectory. With the current trajectory that they are going at, there will be no chance, because, like you have rightly said, the PDP has got a lot of political structures, as they will call it. Because let's not forget, from 1999, when we started the Fourth Republic, to 2015, which was a period of 16 years, the PDP were the party at the center in Nigeria and the party that was controlling the majority of states. So within those 16 years, they built those structures. They have people on the ground. They have foot soldiers on the ground. They have a broad-based support, north, south, east, west, right? Now, that is not the case. Since 2015, when they lost the elections to the APC candidate, President Buhari, in 2019, when President Buhari was doing a second time, again, the PDP was in disarray, because that was when some of the PDP, a faction of the PDP. So let's not even forget that even in 2015, the APC emerged from President Tinubu's party, President Buhari's party, then some section of ABGA, with a major bloc that formed the APC, where PDP members, including the likes of Governor Rotimi Amechi, they left the PDP,
Bukola Saraki
and co left the PDP and joined the APC, and that is why the APC became a formidable force that could not be beaten by an incumbent president, Goodluck Jonathan, and he lost out. And the same thing played out in 2019, and in 2023, I believe that the PDP shot themselves in the foot, because here was the PDP with President Buhari just finishing 8 years as a northerner in the villa, and then the PDP allowed Atiku Abubakar from the same north to fly their flag, such that if he was successful, it will be perhaps 12 or 16 unbroken years of a Hausa flying from the north being president of Nigeria. And if you look at Nigeria as a geopolitical entity, that was very unequitable, it was unfair. So the best decision the PDP had was to let Mr. Peter Obi, who was the most prominent presidential aspirant in the party, to take the presidential ticket. If he did, a lot of things would have come into play. Number one, power will rotate from the north to the south. Number two, the East have never been president of Nigeria. And Mr. Peter Obi would have been in pole position to do that. So if you look at the result of the presidential election in 2023, the votes that Mr. Peter Obi got and Atiku Abubakar got were both PDP votes. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. They divided votes.
They divided their votes. So, and remember that Peter Obi won 8 states, and Mr. Abubakar won 8 states. That's 16 states. And the current governor won 8 states, making it 34 states. And then there were 2 states that were won by Labour Party. The NNPP party. You see what I'm saying? So that was a political suicide that the PDP committed. in 2023, and they better get their act together, otherwise 2027 is already slipping through their fingers.
All right, so we are being joined right now by Ibrahim Abdullahi, who is a Deputy Public Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party. Good morning, Mr. Ibrahim.
Good morning, my friend. How are you?
I'm very well. All right. So bring us up to speed. First, we understand there is a factional opposition decision to suspend the acting president in the person of ENUGU of the party. But let's hear from you. What's the update on the party? What's going on in PDP?
Yeah, there's no faction, first of all, in the PDP. That must be corrected. The NWC sat yesterday in its 593rd session and then took a decision to suspend the National Publicity Secretary and the National Legal Advisor of the party. The committee is put in place to review the allegations that were leveled against them with regards to disloyalty and insubordination. And then within 2 weeks, to report back to the House, proper decision to be taken against the duo. And just when that is done, in compliance with the relevant provisions of our law, in the middle of the night, the suspended National Publicity Secretary came up with a press release purportedly suspending the national chairman. I don't know, and by the way, the fellow is not even in the country as we speak. There was no meeting anywhere. I don't know if he himself has constituted a council with the required number and quorum to be able to take even decision on behalf of the party. There's no local standing. He's just grandstanding. He's just not. He's just being a typical Nigerian and an African who will want to shave a person's head in their absence. So, really speaking, it's not something that requires even the attention of the media, because the media is guided by the extant provisions of our law. If the media will want to listen to a person who has been suspended, I don't know, is it from suspension? Because it's by law, the moment you are said to be suspended from a properly constituted committee, then your powers to act on behalf of that organization cease to be. So I wonder at what capacity was he suspending someone who presided over a committee that suspended him earlier? So it's just the kind of executive rascality that we have in this country. Instead of going squarely to face, for a person that is a senior lawyer, one would have expected him to be guided, not to go doing this thing, because it's a further damage to his reputation and it violates the ethics of his professional conduct as a lawyer.
All right, Mr. Ibrahim, but Debo has come out, PDP have said that he was not loyal to the party, and that's one of the things that led to his suspension. But bring us up to speed. How correct is that assertion that he's not loyal to the party?
No, he has not shown loyalty lately. Just when we are contending, and of course you, the media, have descended heavily, on PDP to get things right in the party. And this is what has engrossed our attention. This is what we've been doing lately to ensure that all of those issues that were raised with regards to party activities against certain individuals, some of them highly placed, a committee, in fact, 2 committees have been put in place recently to look into all of these issues, to review them. And that seemed to have doused the tension to a reasonable extent. And then we're contending, coming out of a successful Congress, at least 90% successful across the 36 states of the Federation, barring River State, which is still in contention. And that is one of the issues that Debo, had to show disloyalty, because the party had taken a position not to partake in the Rivers local government election. But Debo went against the decision of the party, which was taken in his presence. He was in attendance, to issue a statement that the PDP would take part in that election, and he was encouraging them to come all out. But you could see if that is anything to go by, then it has constituted disloyalty and insubordination. That was just one of the many. I will be coming to address the press in a few minutes, and some of the details will be made known. And of course, that will guide our discourse forward.
All right, just before we let you go, before you address the press, we are curious this morning, in this situation where it has been, the other faction, as it stands right now, although you said it doesn't hold water because he is under suspension, but has come out to say that the chairman, the acting chairman has been suspended. That's the person of ENUGU has been suspended and he has been subjected to disciplinary measures. And you were saying that it's not possible. As it stands right now, we are asking them, what holds water for the PDP right now? What should we take?
What you should take is as simple as what you can imagine. And the answer is ABC. It's as simple. Somebody saying he suspended someone. First of all, he's lacking in the powers, capacity, and legal backing to do so. Secondly, he's not even in the country as we speak. And then suspension will be guided by rules of engagement and the principles of equity and fairness. You cannot, because you are said to be suspended, then you turn around and say you are suspending the person who suspended it. It wasn't Damagu who took the decision to suspend him, but it was the council. And he was not the only one suspended. There was this legal advisor, national legal advisor, who was equally suspended, and he was in attendance in the meeting. And so he took his own in good faith, and therefore who is not even in the shows of the country. So where did you hold your meeting? Where are the who voted? What are the minutes of suspending the national chairman and the national secretary? So for you to even give that attention, it's just a waste of time. The media is expected to know that that is not the line to toe, except because they want to put flame where there's no fire. That's not even, it's a waste of time. It doesn't represent anything.
Mr. Ibrahim Abdullahi, that's why we are calling you to get clarification on some of these things, because we need to put the balance out there for Nigerians to be able to make informed decisions on this matter. All right, I want to say thank you so much, Mr. Ibrahim Abdullahi, for that clarification. And Mr. Ibrahim Abdullahi is the Deputy Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, and you've heard it from him. Want to appreciate him so much. All right, so let's even come back to look at and let's go back on the fiscal policy of Nigeria again. There are a lot of policy that has been suspension of the VAT and all the items that have been suspended. But this is an economy that is trying to revitalize itself and come back to normalcy. But then suspension of items, won't this further throw the economy into a state of comatose?
Well, I think the suspension of VAT, for instance, on food items, pharmaceuticals, and all of that is what happens in almost every other economy. There are some basic essentials that you want to deal with inflation, and so you don't want to make them unaffordable to the vast majority of the people, because VAT adds to the price of these products. So if you take off the VAT, it's expected that it becomes more affordable. And so if looking at the economic situation now and the changes that have happened since this government came into office about 16 months or so ago, discovered that the disposable income of households has been greatly impacted negatively. Whether you want to talk about fuel subsidy removal, you want to talk about unification of exchange rate, you want to talk about electricity tariffs, you want to talk about what's the other point? We talked about unification, hiking electricity tariff, then hiking interest rates. All these things go to increase prices, so they're inflationary. So government taking steps to cushion the effect and all of that is fine. And like I said, it's not, government can make up the revenue, which is the point you have made, that if you suspend, no longer government, you can make money if you look at all that. Look at how the rich of Nigeria can pay their fair share of taxes. You can make a lot more money than you are losing from the suspension. If you look at how to stop crude oil theft, you can make a lot more money than the suspension.
But Mr. Nick, looking at all of this, all of this indices, the country needs money as it stands right now. The federal government is in dying need. Nigeria is almost going out to borrow from World Bank as it stands right now, which means that the government needs enough funds on the ground. And here we are talking about the suspension of certain items. from the vast list. It's a bit confusing right now. We are asking, is the timing for the suspension right? Or the government should probably look for other time? Because Nigerians are already ready to toe this line of let the VAT go. Let the VAT be there. We're ready to cope. So looking at the timing of the suspension, would this further be an excuse by the Nigerian government not to meet up setting off its manifesto, electoral manifesto as it stands right now? Wouldn't this further make the government to deviate from what he had promised us earlier on?
No, it shouldn't. Because if you look at politics elsewhere, like if you look at the UK, you have the Conservative Party, you have the Labour Party. If you look at the US, you have the Republican Party, you have the Democratic Party. Now, the Democrats in the US, their equivalent in the UK is Labour. And then the Conservatives in the UK, their equivalent in the US is the Republican Party. It's their ideology. The ideology of the Labour Party or the Democrats is to tax people, bring the money in a pool, right? And then use it for social welfare programs. While the ideology of the Conservative Party is to cut taxes. Yeah? Cut taxes so that people can have disposable income and take their financial decisions. Now, when you talk about cut taxes, you will hear them say, if we cut this tax, we are going to make up the government revenue from this process. And that's what you mean by balancing the books. Do you understand? So cutting tax is never a problem. In fact, if you look at an economy like Nigeria, which is a small economy that needs output growth, you want people to have money to be able to buy so that manufacturers and producers of goods and services will be happy to increase output. So if, as the government has already committed to cutting taxes in Nigeria, there are many other areas they can make up the money. Look at how much crude oil that we have produced that is being stolen, you know. But more importantly, I want to also draw, you understand? Like you said, government will, if government experiences lower revenue, how can they execute their programs? The Nigerian government needs to embark on reforms. In this age, governments are not the ones that are running businesses, all right? Governments, businesses, create the environment for the business world to come in and bring their money and invest, while government is responsible for regulation and taxation and all of that. And I can give you a very good example. You look at this fund I'm holding. This fund used to be provided by government budget, called NITA. And because it was being provided by government budget, the budget wasn't big enough. Even the budget was not being managed properly. We didn't have funds. The whole of Nigeria was having 500,000 active lines. They were grossly inadequate, and so the fund was expensive. There was racketeering with the funds. The fund became a status symbol, and yet people didn't have it. Reforms happened during the Obasanjo regime, and what happened? Government stepped back from telecommunication and allowed the MTNs, the Airtels, the Etisalat, and the Glos to come in. What did they do? They have so far put in over $1 billion of their money to develop the infrastructure. And today, Nigeria is being offered 220 million active lines.
Mr. Nick,
Yeah.
let me even pause you at that point. We'll come back to this conversation. I've been joined right now, and today is the International Day for the Girl Child, and we are also trying not to be sentimental. We're trying to bring in the girls and talk about gender issues also even this morning. And I'm being joined by Adewale Yetunde, who is joining me from Ibadan. Adewale Yetunde is the chairman board of trustees and program manager of Friend Hope Horizon Foundation, and is joining us from your state, Ibadan. You're welcome to Signature Morning, Adewale Yetunde. Yetunde, if you can hear me, good morning. You're welcome to Signature Morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right. So let's even talk about the girl child this morning. But tell us, what is the pressing issues of the Nigerian girl child before we talk about the future of the Nigerian girl child? What's the International Day for the Girl Child all about? What are the issues confronting the girl child before we talk about the future of the girl child? Adewale, can you hear me, Yetunde?
Yes.
All right, Yetunde, so we're trying to find where we are, where we're going to as a country in terms of the girl child. What are the issues confronting the Nigerian girl child, and what is the theme of this year's International Girls Child Day all about? And how does this correlate with the Nigerian girl child?